writing as a process. So today, before we sort of get down to writing as a process, I want you to think about writing. So can you recall your earliest experience of writing? When did you begin to write? Did you just scribble first? Were you encouraged by your parents, teachers, anyone else? Were you given drawing books? Were you scribbling on the wall? And how did you feel about it? Then think of the turning point when your attitude to writing changed. What happened? Why did you change? Who has influenced you the most where your writing is concerned? Is it your teacher? Is it your friend? A family member? Anyone else? What type of writing do you enjoy most? Do you like to write emails, or do you like to write on cards? Do you like to blog? And why? And what social media do you write on most? And again, why? So I want all of us, even though we are teachers, think about our own writing styles and our own writing strategies. Then think about these questions. Why do I need to write? Do we write to share experience? So maybe we have a diary, or maybe we blog. Do we write to think? So we probably are making notes. Do we write to learn? Do we write to create? Are we creative writers? Now let's look at what experienced writers have to say on good writing. They spend a lot of their time planning before they attempt the first draft. 2, they spend a lot of time thinking about their readers. They explore their subject as thoroughly as possible. And this I know for sure because I do read detective books, and I find that there are in the acknowledgements to this police department and to that lawyer, and they've gone to prisons, and the writers have done really some thorough research, and they consider their first draft to be a rough draft. Then they thoroughly revise their draft. I know that D.H. Lawrence used to have 11 drafts before he was satisfied. And when you draft and redraft, you're rethinking, you're restructuring whatever you've written. So this is what experienced writers do. Do you do that yourself? Now let's reflect on what you do when you write. How many drafts do you write? Or is your first draft your final draft? How do you start writing? Do you wait till you find a suitable beginning and then proceed linearly? Or do you jump somewhere in the middle when a suitable idea strikes you? Do you keep referring back to what you've written and sometimes restructure, sometimes rewrite it again? And what do you do when you manage to complete the first draft? So we all know that writing, as teachers we definitely know that, is a 3-way process. We have this pre-writing, then we have the while writing stage and the rewriting stage. And this may appear linear, but as we will soon see, it's actually very recursive process. When we write, it's a good idea to think about 3 key elements: your purpose, your subject matter, the reader or audience. You need to ask yourself, why am I writing this piece? Who am I writing for? Where do I source the material for all the writing that I do? Your purpose. You must be very clear about what your text is going to be used for. For example, are you going to write a report? Is it going to be a memo? Is it going to be a letter? Only if all this is clear will you be able to identify the steps that you need to reach your goal. Only then will you be able to search for the information or ideas that are related to your purpose and your genre. When you are trying to find the purpose of your writing, remember you could be writing a description, a narration, persuasive piece, argumentative, presenting facts, analyzing, summarizing. Then you have to gather the information. How do you research for information? Of course, the internet. Everybody goes to the internet. You have to, when you're searching the internet, identify the credible sources. books and journals, so you go to libraries, and this business of organization of your research. You come to identification of your subject then. So you have to be very sure that will your reader understand what you're writing about? Can you gather the information that is most relevant to your reader and your goals? Otherwise, you're likely to collect any and all information that is available, and that's not a good thing. The first thing when you're gathering information, I suggest, is write and recollect what you already know about the subject. And it's a good idea to look at your class notes before you look at any other sources. And this is a tip that you should give children. When you're writing about something, please look at your class notes first. So write quickly, write without planning and organization. The first step should be a little dynamic, unorganized. Then when one does research on the internet, it is very, very essential to find comprehensive, updated information of your topic. You must bookmark websites that appear useful. And be sure to include the URL, the title of the site, the date when the information was posted, and the date when you accessed it. And this is important because sometimes posts are removed and then you forget and you're left really in the lurch. You don't know what to do. When you're looking at books or articles, make sure that you record the author, title, publication, information, page number of the articles, and of course the names and books that you refer to. If you don't do that, sometimes you may just be caught in a plagiarism suit for no rhyme or reason. It's just that you forgot to do this. A lot of plagiarism happens not intentionally, but because one forgets to do these kind of things. So the other thing is you need to make notes. And how do you make notes? You need to brainstorm. Do you brainstorm alone or with other people? And you need to create a mind map. Very important to create a mind map because that will give you visual information of what you have in mind. And that will help you capture your ideas better. Then ask questions. When you decide on your topic, ask probing questions. And this will provide you with ideas. And I will show you some probing questions that we have asked later on. So this is a mind map that you have, which is taken from the net. And this is, it has about global warming. And so what do you do when you travel? What do you do at home? What do you do? What kind of food you should eat? So this is quite a mad kind of mind map where everything. It's very colorful. It's very nice, and sometimes you like to do things of this kind. Or you can have a mind map like this, where it's very cut and dried and black and white. So both are absolutely okay. So you can have fun as we showed in the first one, or you can have something cut and dried as in this one. Yes, now we come to knowing your readers and look at the questions that we've asked. Is your reader an expert or a general reader? So the probing questions. What does the reader already know about the topic? What background information might they need to know to understand the current situation? What does the reader need to know as well? What action do you want them to take? Because often you want them to take action. That's why you've written the piece. You want to know their attitude. What is their attitude going to be? Because maybe you're writing a persuasive or an argumentative piece. So you want to know their attitude. Are they going to be biased, or are they going to have any positive associations with your subject? So you write accordingly. Now this is an example of a narrative, a piece of narrative, and it's from one's own life. I thought this would be very interesting because it is from one's own life. So here are some of the questions that you could ask. Who are my readers? What are they likely to think of me as they read about this event? What do I want them to think of me? How much of the event is likely to be familiar to my readers? What might surprise them? How can I help my readers understand the significance of this event in my life? And then, does it suggest to the readers the social and cultural forces that shaped me through the event? So these are the questions if you're maybe writing a narrative, but there will be very different kind of questions that when you're writing a persuasive piece or an argumentative piece or an expository piece. But the whole point of writing all these questions was to tell you how detailed the probing questions have to be. Then we come to this whole business of beginning to write. Always a good idea to begin with a thesis statement, and we will be talking about the thesis statement very soon, which clearly defines one's opinion on a particular topic. And when you have a thesis statement, then you can spend the rest of your paragraph or your essay in exemplifying it. The thesis statement should be asserting one main idea, and it should be stated in specific terms. Then let me come to introductions and conclusions. And this is the bane of all the writers that I know, So, and I'll be giving you examples of some of them. So, first we're going to talk about introductions. So it could begin with a statement of a problem. It could begin with an arresting statistics or shocking statement, a question, a quotation maybe. It could also be a preamble, like a relevant story, a joke, an anecdote. It could be comparison, contrast. It could be a personal experience. All this could be part of the introduction. So let's go on to introductions. The first one, for example, and that's a statement. Ours is a society that tries to keep the world sharply divided into masculine and feminine. Not because that is the way the world is, but because that is the way we believe it should be. Then second is statistics. There are more ants than any other kind of land animals in the world. 1 million ants can live in a few trees, and there may be 250,000 in one colony. And the total weight of all the ants is more than that of human beings. Then we have a question. Which animal tills, purifies, and fertilizes the enormous masses of soil for us and rejuvenates agricultural lands after incessant use has sapped their productivity? This animal has no limbs, no teeth, no backbone, or even a spine. So this is like a guesswork. So we can begin with a question, which is interesting. Or we can have another question. Where shall we meet? It's a question which may demand a good deal of thought in one of our great cities. So these are interesting ways of introducing. Conclusions now. So in conclusion, we can have a restatement of the thesis statement. We can have an evaluation of the importance of the subject, a call to action, as I said earlier, a warning, which is based on the thesis statement. We can end with a quote, we can end with an anecdote, or we can end with a rhetorical question. And we can also have a summing up overall impression. I'll just give you some conclusions, and this is about where shall we meet. So one conclusion is, and that is about this dog, Hachiko, who was so fond of his master that even when the master died, he would wait at the station. So where should we meet? So this is a story in Japan. So it is today the fine statue of Hachiko stands in the middle of the busy and friendly square in front of the Shibuya station. And as you look at the statue and read the words below it, you feel that you know a little more about Attica dogs, loyalty, and the people of Japan. And this is, we talked about it in the introduction. It was, where shall we meet? It is meet at the site of the fine statue of Hachiko. And this is another good conclusion, I thought. The Europeans go to all the warmer climes because they don't get enough sun. So they go to warmer climates. So he said, so the conclusion is, we seem to have learnt one clear lesson. If we had cleaner air, the healing light of the sun would do us all good. Fewer people would need to go to the special schools in the sun. So they say that you don't need to go to special schools in the sun, because if you had cleaner air, you probably wouldn't need that. Now let us talk about, now we've thought a lot about the whole business of writing. I come to the process approach to writing. So we begin with a plan. And when we write a plan, it's important to have an outline. But remember, as we said before, the points can be changed. It must be dynamic. It must be flexible. Second, we need to write a draft. It's important to tell the children to have frequent pauses to reread as they write their draft. Not write the draft at one go, but keep pausing, keep rereading. Maybe add an example, maybe choose synonyms, maybe improve an argument. It should be a recursive process. Then conferencing. Sometimes it is impossible to discover problems in one's own writing, so it's important to show your draft to others. It could be teachers, seniors, even classmates. Then revising. See what the comments of your friends are. See the comments of the teachers. Incorporate them if they're necessary. Do check for spelling, punctuation, grammatical errors. Improve your vocabulary. Add clarity to your ideas, and then make another draft. How do you troubleshoot your draft? First is the focus. Is the focus too broad? Have I covered too much? Have I not directly related stuff to the topic? Or is the focus too narrow? I don't have enough to write about. Then let's look at readability. Is the organization logical? Is there a topic sentence? Is there a fluent flow of ideas? We talked about introduction. So is the beginning interesting for your readers? Are you summarizing it properly? Are you speculating about the future? Is there a call for action? Then, of course, editing and proofreading. Keep your dictionary and thesaurus handy to check for spelling, usage, meaning of words in doubt, and synonyms. If you're working on the laptop, be sure to use these tools. Then eliminate mistakes that all of us make. For instance, it's and it's with and without an apostrophe, let's and let's without an apostrophe, who's with apostrophe, whose, and so on. Then the teachers and your friends would have commented, and especially your teachers have commented on the problem areas in your writing. Please pay special attention to those areas. Sometimes it helps to read aloud your draft. It helps you to hear what your eye may have missed. So it's important to hear. Your eye may have missed some things, but your ears may not. And look at the common grammatical errors. Few sentences, misuse past perfect verbs, order of adjectives, relative clauses, with commas, without commas. Then proofread your final drafts at least twice. They say if you read it more than 3 times, then you can't really see anything. So at least 2 times. And see that you've formatted it appropriately and that you've numbered the pages. So this gives you a broad outline about the process approach to writing. See that all the steps have been covered when you look at your children's writing. Then what do we need in order to be an effective writer? Very important to inform your students about this. We learn actually to write by reading. So when we read extensively, it will enable us to become better writers. All good writers are avid readers. They read for enjoyment as well as for information and also to hone their craft. Please encourage your students to read, even if it is reading from the net. Reading also enables you to understand a particular genre. So you know a poem from a play, from a novel. But also you should know that a narrative is very different from an argumentative essay from a persuasive piece. A convention of a report is very different from the convention of, for instance, a proposal. So only by reading will we understand all this, because just by looking at what the teacher tells us in the classroom, we are not going to get this. So teachers, please encourage your students to read. So that is how, as I said, you will understand the conventions of a certain genre. And also the other thing is to constantly write. One of the best ways to become a good writer is to constantly write. It makes you more thoughtful and ideational. You know, it's a good idea to blog about your experience. Tell your students, do it yourself, and also tell your students to blog about their experiences. Write a journal, maybe a diary. And this will help them write continuously and help them be better writers. Also, ceaselessly tell them, and I tell myself every day as well, it is important to ceaselessly enhance one's vocabulary and convert one's passive vocabulary into an active one. That means become a word conscious person, become a word seeker. Now, the process approach to writing, it has several advantages. It gives the student metacognitive awareness of their writing processes. It places great emphasis on the response to writing. Remember, we have conferences, so it motivates learners. It also gives teachers points where they need to make overt correction, but it has disadvantages. The process may not be the same for all learners. And there's a talk of multiple processing models, that different children have different models of processing. And also this model is not very clear on the social nature of writing or on the role of language and text structure. So to sum up, we need to have topic selection by the teacher or by the students, pre-writing, we need to compose, get ideas on paper, need responses to the draft by the teachers or the peers, need to revise, need responses to revision, proofreading and editing, I talked of, evaluation that the teacher has to do. And then one important thing is publication. Is it by class circulation? Is it by presentation, notice board, websites? And follow up activities to address weaknesses. Thank you very much for this.